Hello and welcome to another episode of the Shakedown F1 podcast with my friends, my co-host, my colleagues and my brethren. The one that they call Sir Bexley and the one that they call the A-side, otherwise known as Shazina. How are we doing, chaps? It doesn't matter how you're doing because there are very many F1 centric thread at which we need to pull. So Baxley, I'm coming to you first. Drive to Survive, buyer or seller? Chap.
Seller, I couldn't care less. Look, I've tried watching it. It's not for me, but like, I'm not the intended audience of Drive to Survive. I say this every year. It's like Drive to Survive is designed to bring new people into the sport, and it has done that brilliantly, absolutely brilliantly. I cannot fault the impact that it's had. But I'm not about like the sort of playing up of some of the storylines. Like I watched the first series where like Daniel and Max don't like each other. It's like, really? I'm like, really? I'm seeing two different things here. So yeah, not for me, but for those that enjoy it, they'll enjoy seeing everything. But I just want to get to the racing at this point.
Talk to me, Shez. What say you, sir?
I mean, I'm normally in the same camp, but this year actually it looks pretty interesting, and I have to say, like actually, I take your point about like I want to get into the racing, right? But this for the last season or two, even if it isn't completely like realistic, it does whet your appetite a little bit. It does get you like pumped up and ready for it, like they're not happening simultaneously, so I don't have to choose between one or the other. And if it means that like it's a trailer for the main event, yeah, I'll take it. I guess the only thing I'm a bit annoyed about this year is that the storylines are so juicy. Like there are things that we've been chatting about the whole year: the Horner stuff, the the Lewis going to Ferrari stuff. All of that stuff is stuff that we've been chatting about. But these guys have had their boom mic in the faces of the people that are having these conversations. And there are little tidbits that I'd really like to hear. I just hope it hasn't all been spoiled already by everyone on social media and everyone that should have been essentially on an embargo to talk about it, but have been leaking little bits and pieces to us anyway.
I think that's the point, Shez. I think they weren't on embargo. That's why we know that season one's going to be the big Horner scandal plus a bit of Sir Lewis and Toto, the boy who cried. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, but that's why it's a problem. Like, okay,
I
fine.
don't think that's a problem, mate. I think that's
Well,
whet the appetite very nicely. I'm going to be up at 12 p.m. tonight watching it proper, mate. Like hard. How can I?
mate, it's not like I'm not going to be watching it. My point though is that I kind of already know what's coming. Like the surprise isn't there quite as much.
I've already seen the
kind of
interesting clips.
Yeah,
Like
no,
Sky,
wow.
you got Sky Sports showing the Kimi Antonelli moment. It's like I don't need to see that now. I've already
No,
seen it.
but
and that's a problem in terms of the production, right?
no, I think I beg to differ, chaps. Like, listen, you boys are sounding more and more like dinosaurs of F1 by the second. Like the beauty.
I've been there a long time.
Yeah, you boys, go on and let me bring you guys into the 21st century. Look, what we're looking at with Drive to Survive, I was arguing that it's got to be good, right? If they're telling you stories, if they're showing you things that you already know, right? But the beauty to season 7 episode 1 in particular is that everybody wants to see Christian Horner's face when he gets those WhatsApp messages through on his phone with him allegedly talking to a pit. That is like gold. You can't even like you can't buy that sort of moment. I can't believe that the Netflix cameras even captured it.
Yeah.
Like it is, but like how can you, Baxty, mate? I know even if episode 1, just for the couple of minutes where you get to see Christian Horner on the bloody pit wall looking at his phone, reacting to that is like I wonder sincerely, guys, how many attention dollars incrementally more F1 in 2025 gets, particularly at the Australian Grand Prix, because of what Drive to Survive is about to do in 4 hours' time.
It'll be on the internet. It'll be on Twitter tomorrow. It'll be fine.
That's my problem.
Like
Is that
that's the thing.
moment.
So many people clip everything up. I don't need to watch it because, I've already seen the Lewis and Toto stuff. With Toto saying, "I'm not gonna. I promised Lewis not to talk to Max and everything." I've already seen it. I don't need to go and spend my time.
No, but Baxter,
watching.
but Baxter, I don't think you have. This is what I'm saying, because they're showing you more. I think the best bit of Lewis.
But this is what I'm saying. That's what the media have chosen to show us, but everything else will get released out tomorrow anyway. So all the interesting clips will be clipped up by the fan pages and all the news aggregators, and just go, here's an interesting clip about our driver. Boom.
I think
just to get clicks.
I don't think somebody will do it somewhere on Netflix, but I reckon a lot of people will just go and watch it on Netflix. Baxter, I think this is going to do rising F1 tide floats all boats, and I think Netflix, as it always has done, definitely will do one of those where it will just be like, oh my gosh, this is F1. This is F1. I'm going to go and watch at 4 a.m. on the Australian Grand Prix.
That's great. And that's what I'm saying. It's done an amazing job for what it has intended to do. And Liberty Media have nailed it in that regard. It's not for me personally. And the stuff that I want to see will be on Twitter within the space of 2 hours of it releasing. So and that's fine. That's how I choose to ingest it. It's like, okay, that's a nice little clip. I'm not going to go out of my way to go and watch it. But to get new eyeballs onto the sport, it's the perfect vehicle. And I know that Liberty now own MotoGP. I'm waiting for Ride to Survive to appear at some point to start telling the MotoGP stories.
Marquez for 4 hours, wasn't it? But that I think is the crux of this, right? When basically, I think when you say it's not for me, to me, I'm taking that more as it's not for me as somebody that consumes so much of F1 via the lens of social media, right? That we have a Twitter feed running like pretty much 24/7, and every little clip of that season will just be uploaded in one way, shape, or form. The best example I've got is last year, probably the juiciest scene of Drive to Survive, the one that everyone really wanted to watch, was that conversation across the desk between Toto and Lewis.
Yeah.
And I watched it on social media and thought, man, this is going to be an absolutely dynamite episode. I watched the episode and that was the only good bit in it. And you spent the whole episode just building up to that, to see it and then go, oh, okay, I've already seen this before. But I do agree that if you're not invested in like having to pick up every bit of news as soon as it happens, and you can watch Drive to Survive on its own merits as a window into something that you don't normally get to see, then yeah, brilliant. And as somebody that enjoys film, yeah, it's brilliantly well produced, and the storylines, even if sometimes they're a bit fake, do whet your appetite for the racing. They do get you fired up and hyped, and for that, like, I cannot criticize it. But that's the dichotomy that we face, I think.
Yeah, I'm not going to sit here and say, oh, it shouldn't be around, blah, 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 and get all, ivory towered, like, this is how you should do Formula One. It has its place within the sport and in the community, and it's a great way of drawing in new people. I'm already here. I tried it. I gave it a go. Wasn't for me. And that's, I didn't dismiss it out of hand straight away. I wanted to give it a go. Yeah, that's...
Although, I think back to it is an evolving beast, right? So, sorry to hijack the point, but what was your thoughts about F1 75 before it aired?
The launch event. Oh, I thought it was going to be rubbish, but I enjoyed it. And I think that's partly because I didn't go in with high expectations, and they surpassed those expectations.
Do you think Drive to Survive might do something similar for you this season if you gave it a shot?
Not really, no, because a lot of the stuff, I've lived it in real time. Like, like Lewis's move to Ferrari, the Horner scandal, like all of that stuff. Like, they're not covering anything particularly out of the ordinary, I feel.
Baxty's wrinkles, chap. You're right. The materiality of what you're saying, Baxty, is absolutely in line, directionally correct, but it's these added the Horner stuff we've already covered. That is I cannot wait to watch that and hear Horner talking about, oh, they've tried to fudge me.
Apparently, they don't talk about it that like they literally
What?
show you that clip. Like
Negative backstage.
they
It's
show
got
you they
Horner.
show you that moment, and then that's basically it.
What?
Probably because of legal reasons.
No, Baxter. They've got Horner narrating it and talking about how they came
I don't think they go on about that
Baxter,
as long as you think.
Baxter,
From what I've
Baxter
led
in
to
there,
understand.
right? There's a couple bullet points. I want to hear Horner narrating that circumstance. I think that is absolute chaos. I want to see the reaction to it on the pit wall, him getting the messages on his phone and looking at Adrian Newey and seeing Adrian Newey's reaction. That for me alone, Baxter's worth the entry fee.
5 minutes in a 40-minute episode.
It's seminal enough. It could be half a second, mate, and I don't care. I'm going to tune in.
And it will be on
it.
my phone tomorrow morning.
Fair play. And then Baxter, I'll see that and raise you this. There's a portion when Horner's talking about, oh mate, there's the interviewer asked Horner a question. Do you know do you know who's responsible for sending those messages?
You just want to see his face, don't you? I know you do.
Horner
the little smile.
Horner does the little cheeky. Mate, I just wanted that for me is what I might not even watch any of the other episodes, Baxter, but that for me alone is worth maybe a year's worth of Netflix subscription. I'll be honest with you, it's going to be. And then lest we forget the bloody interaction between Carlos Sainz. Carlos asking Lewis at a press conference, so what, you don't think, well, saying, listen, I think if Toto, the boy who cried wolf, was interested, then he would have picked up his phone and contacted me, and he hasn't yet. Lewis, you don't think Mercedes will win again? Do you think they are declining? To which Lewis Hamilton responds, no, I don't think so. Well, there's two different questions in there that Carlos Sainz says. Well, I need to watch that 1,000 times to see whether Lewis is saying no, I don't think so, as in Mercedes won't win again, or no, I don't think they are declining. I need to watch it and ingest it and see what's going on because why? Baxter, because F1 and F1 TV Access and F1 TV Pro don't show us this SH1T. This is all left on the bloody cutting room floor because the producers at F1 proper are absolute jokers and have been wasting away, just letting all of this gold material just lay to waste for no reason because they're too lazy to capture it. I think that's for whatever the foibles and the editing and making Pierre Gasly look like he's fighting his teammate when he's not. Like for all of the editing and like the having to suspend your disbelief whether you're watching what's real or what's fake. I think there are bits and bobs even for the F1 purists that make it worth a watch.
But kind of forget the editing and all that stuff. That you're right. That is, from a filmmaking point of view, interesting, but not what we're there for, right? Would it not be more of an interesting watch if you watched it and that came about organically? It wasn't like you were watching the episode waiting for that moment to happen. Like it suddenly hits you and you're like, did he just say that? As opposed to, I knew that was coming 100%. Because I've read it. I've read it for a week beforehand.
Yeah. And they're not even covering Franco Colapinto, which I think is ridiculous. That was one of the biggest stories of last year. He was one of the biggest moments of the year when he first came in and had those good results and started getting all of that support from South America. And they're not even covering it. Like what? That's a big story.
Was it really though, Baxter?
It was absolutely like.
Bigger than Checo, bigger than Christian, bigger than Lewis.
No. I'm not saying it's bigger than those stories, but it was definitely a story that generated a hell of a lot of talking, and evolved as it went on. It was like, oh, they've got rid of Logan Sargent and brought in Franco Colapinto. What the hell? That's really interesting. Oh, this kid's actually quite good. Checo Perez is praising him on the radio. Oh, hang on a minute, he might get a Red Bull drive at the expense of Checo Perez. Oh, okay, actually, maybe he's not quite as good as we thought, but look at the support he's getting from Argentina and look how many sponsors he is putting onto the car. I know he's going to be a big talking point in next year's series because he's probably going to replace Jack Doohan at some point, but him going into Williams was a big moment, and yet they're not covering that, which I find weird.
I think you've got your purist goggles on, Baxter. I think Colapinto was a big story. To say he wasn't would be disingenuous of me, but say that he was bigger than, I don't know, Checo and Danny Rick and Christian and Sir. There were some chunky, like proper teeth getting stuck into plot lines last year, and I don't hate if they missed out. Franco Colapinto's Argentine contingent will come for me for saying this, but I don't necessarily.
Just going to say that.
All right, mate.
If you're watching this in South America, we apologise,
mate. I don't. This is what time it is. Truth, value.
I got you, South America. It's all good. I got you.
Truth, value, and objectivity sometimes on the Cameron CC channel. Go on then, chaps. Talk to me with T-minus 11 minutes on the docket. Talk to me about the quickest car, because testing was a week ago now, and the general consensus is that the MCL39 iteration of McLaren's car is not just the quickest on the grid, but the most balanced and most drivable. Shazini, I'll come to you first. Buying or selling that supposition?
Oh man, I genuinely thought it was going to be Aston Martin this year, and like here we are. I'm just joking. I am just joking. I promise. But Newey can't come soon enough. I hear he's drawn his first Aston Martin logo on the drawing board. It's going to be fun. The McLaren looked pretty handy, didn't it? I think a lot of this is based around that long run they did on the second day, where it was literally a lap quicker than the next quickest long run being done at the same time.
Hang on, Shez.
Yeah,
hang on. So this is where the bloody Chinese whispers starts to kick me off, and I don't know who I'm listening to. On the James Allen podcast, they reckon that on average, the gap between Lando's run on day 2 and Liam Lawson's was anywhere between 0.4 and 0.5. And then he expounded upon that by saying, on average, how much quicker than his teammate is Max Verstappen, anywhere between 0.3 and 0.4.
Yeah, there's a lot of extrapolation happening there as well.
But what else are you meant to do at this stage, Joe?
Well, indeed. But hold on, what are you trying to say? That the Red Bull is almost there with the MCL?
I know. Well, you know what? You know my personal belief already. I think here's what my F1 spidey senses are telling me. I think Max is within striking distance of Lando Norris. I think McLaren probably have the quickest car, normalising for fuel and everything else, and the changing in climatic circumstance and the ambient temperature and all this other stuff. I think I have a feeling that Max, and even after bloody McLaren have revealed this sexy thing that they've got on the car that they haven't shown anyone, and Red Bull have tinkered for their RB21 and brought brand new bloody bodywork as near as makes no difference, 100% of the car between now and Australia. I've got a feeling that Red Bull will be close enough to where Max Verstappen will be able to make Lando's life very difficult, or too familiarly difficult, if that's a word.
I think it's that if we were in the same situation last season, I would have agreed with you. But there's been some material changes at Red Bull that make it less likely, I think, that's what's going on. Well, in that last season, despite they still had Adrian Newey through the first half of the season to steady the ship a little bit, they turned up with a completely brand spanking new, like completely bonkers looking overbody aero setup that they had to ditch halfway through the season to something that looked much more like everybody else's to get anything to work. They've now turned up. They also, had everybody else having made mistakes. So Mercedes have turned up with a car that they still didn't really understand. Ferrari made were the closest challenges and then fell away halfway through the season. McLaren, by their own admission, didn't have a car that was going to compete until they brought an upgrade to it in Miami. And that all flattered Red Bull in pre-season and the first half of the season. This year, you don't have that. All those other teams are much, much closer to their true potential. And Red Bull have much more of a glass ceiling imposed upon them because of how they've started this rule set. The marginal gains are much more marginal for them. And you can see that because now they're turning up with a brand new floor and a brand new front wing, and they're leaving pre-season testing, having gone, the floor didn't work. We've had to go back to the old one. Still running Flovis on the last pre-season test day, the only team in the top 4 that didn't do a long run. Yes, sure, they may have the brains to get back to within, as you say, striking distance, but I don't think that's going to be. It would take something fairly miraculous from Max to overcome that hurdle, I think. Oh yeah. I'm not saying he's.
Helmut's told you already that Red Bull have themselves a joker, and that joker has a name,
That can't
and his
be
name
the
is
only joker.
his name is Maximilian Verstappen. Baxley, let me pitch this question at you this way. Pierre Vacher and some of the Red Bull bods have come out and said that they think McLaren are taking a risk, that they've been super aggressive in their pursuit of anti-dive, that suspension and the positioning, the repositioning even of the wishbone at the front, that potentially that could lead to some difficulty as far as reliability, and then needing to strengthen that structure, which would of course lead to weight, which of course is the killer of lap time, particularly in this ground effect era. Baxley, to that you say what, sir?
Wait and see. There's no way of knowing until they actually drive those cars in anger for the first time in Australia, and we'll start to find out properly. Very well. We'll know quickly. From what I could gather in testing, McLaren definitely had the best car. I think we're going to have 4 teams fighting for wins again this year. I think Ferrari, a little bit of work to do because Lewis's last day wasn't ideal. He disappeared for the last hour and never reappeared. Red Bull definitely looked like a handful, but I think it's one that they can get on top of. And Mercedes looked useful. And that's just the top 4. I mean, other teams looked impressive at different points as well. The Alpine and Williams in particular look good to me in that sort of midfield pack. But yeah, look, the thing with testing is that there's so much waffle and bollocks that goes on. And, everyone's trying to second guess what the other team are doing. In a week's time, all that chat stops and we're going to find out. So you can talk about your risky anti-dive, but if they go through the whole, go through Australia and Japan and Bahrain and China and everything else, and their car hasn't broken down once, well, sorry, Pierre Wacher, you're talking out your backside.
Hang on a second, Shez. Baxter, you made you the F1 thief of joy. Sure, this is F1 barbershop talk, man, and surely this is the gift of testing, that we get to put on our speculative caps and try and figure something out before it happens.
Yeah, but maybe it will happen, maybe it won't. But I'm very much somebody who's just like, I need to see it. Like, you can speculate all you want, but when I was younger, I used to be like, oh yeah, that's totally going to happen, and then it doesn't. Yeah, so now I'm just like, nah, if you think that's going to happen and it happens, you look great. If not, you look like an idiot. But yeah, it's just.
But as you say, though, it is Pierre Vacher's prerogative to destabilize another team, especially if they don't think they're doing that brilliantly.
And he's already spoken about the fact that he's not happy with certain elements of his own car.
So exactly, and let's not forget that McLaren did 2 full race distances at Bahrain and didn't have a technical fault, right? Whereas Red Bull did, Ferrari did, McLaren did not. So
True. I don't know how much of Red Bull's foibles were because they were tinkering. I suppose they had the bloody water pressure thing.
Exactly.
But they were tinkering around, weren't they? It was almost like I swear, God, I don't know how anybody isn't talking about this, but that run, again, you can counter for like normalize and fuel loads, etc., etc. The GPS system says one. But that run that for the longest time on day one, Max was sat there in P4, the only one of the top 14 to be on C2s, and then he went and put on the C3s, and he was blistering in that sector 1. He destroyed Lando Norris's sector 1 time as if it was nothing, and nobody for some reason is talking about this as if it never happened. And I think that it reminded me a lot of, was it last year or the year before, when Max went out and did something similar, but he completed the entire lap, and all of the Red Bull bods back in the garage were like, could see their faces like gleaming, people that don't even smile in helmet, Marco and Jos Verstappen.
I remember
that last year.
And all of their faces this year when Max went and did that sector 1, because it didn't look so hunky-dory for a second there when Lando went and did his drivability thing and nailed himself purple, and then all of a sudden when Max did that sector 1, Helmut Marko did one of these and he looked at the camera. Jos Verstappen was beaming. Jos Verstappen, who doesn't even normally smile, and I think that's indicative of them having more pace than potentially they were letting on. By the way, let me tell you guys this before I get some cheeky picks in 60 seconds or less. At the start of testing, odds makers gave Lando Norris 28.5% probability. Max Verstappen had 26.66% recurring. Now, as at the time of writing, Lando Norris has 35% chance of winning the Drivers' Championship. Maximilian Verstappen, 28.5. Baxty, I need a pick. One word for the championship. What's the name?
Verstappen.
Go on then, Shez. You the same question.
Max.
Bloody Nora. With all that said, all this talk about McLaren having the fastest car, and then we still...
because those things change anyway. Red Bull will sort it out, and Max will bridge that gap.
And also, Red Bull is a one-driver team, whereas McLaren have two, Ferrari have two, Mercedes are the only team 1.5. But George is kind of the assumed number one, but they're going to let them race. They're going to let them race.
Unbelievable.
Whereas Red Bull will not let Max and Liam race.
And you guys already know my stance on all things 2025, because
Liam Lawson.
You will never hear me call out another name if we're talking predictions other than the one they call Maximilian Verstappen. Some say apparently 4 times, soon to be 5-time champion. And on that bombshell, we will close the call. That to my right has been Baxty. That on the rightest of right has been the one that they call the A-side, Shezine. You can catch Baxty at BaxtyBF1 and Shifting Happens, and you can catch the one that they call Shezine over at Tyre GP on all podcasting platforms and the YouTubes. Between now and next time, as always, remember to look but never stare.